Hey everyone, Brad here. And today I wanted to just bring up a couple things that you're going to be able to take away and take action on right now in order to start getting better communication with your patients and more people booked onto the schedule. And if you're running ads or you're putting out offers to promote your business, which you actually should be, you're going to get more response from better quality people. So it's incredibly important to know when you are setting up your business that you're communicating clearly to the patients and ultimately speaking to what the problem is that you're helping them resolve. Again, people buy solutions, they don't buy service. So when you're marketing and using vague messaging that's promoting a specific service, massage, chiro, physio, whatever, or a new modality or something, no one really understands why that matters to them. It might sound cool and so on, but ultimately what we need to be able to do is we need to address the outcome or specific problem that they have and how the said tool or your service helps them achieve that. That's ultimately what gets people's attention, especially when you're doing things like paid ads, designing your website and that kind of stuff. When you've got these results and you're speaking to that outcome, you need to be able to also back it up with a proven process. Otherwise, the prospect won't quite understand the results and they often can get stuck into the cycle. I hear problems like this all the time where people say, well, my clients, they don't rebook, or they say they're going to try some stuff out on their own, or they don't do the homework, or whatever it may be. Now, this often happens because in part of the patient success journey, we don't clearly communicate the stages that they go through or what the process is. So we need to be able to have the outcome associated, but also the steps to get there. So for example, when I would do personal training back in the day before I was a practitioner and so on, there were personal trainers who would sell 5 or 6 appointments and then the person would never come back. They had a huge goal and needed the help, but because the trainer failed to articulate the process to getting the specific outcome, the person maybe didn't understand or whatever it may be, and they kind of get stuck or they try to do something else and whatnot. So I find that health practitioners suffer from the same sort of concept. So we need to make sure that we're starting to communicate better. So once you're able to get leads consistently coming in, you have to be able to start converting them. And you do that by being able to communicate exactly how you're going to help them solve their problem. And it's a powerful way to be able to use processing so that way people understand not only the outcome, but what the stages are that you're going to be able to do to help get them to that specific outcome. And they also start to trust the methods and the choice of choosing you, especially if they've tried other practitioners or other sources or other things without resolve before. So the first step is really dialing in specifically your process and being able to communicate it in a way that the patient or prospective patient knows that it's part of an overall process and not just kind of a one and done sort of thing. They need to be able to understand that each treatment kind of builds off each other and the specific objectives. So that way it's easy to understand and communicate with those potential prospects or patients that they're going to be more bought into the process or do the homework or show up or rebook or whatever it is. So to get really good results like that, you've got to work on communicating your process, your stages, or what I refer to in my programs as the signature solution clearly to those prospects in your marketing message. Every stage needs to be logical and build off of it to the next stage. Otherwise, people will get kind of stuck. And it's also important to, number one, if you've got a longer process, set specific milestones so they know that they're on track and consistently remind them. Fat loss is a great example of that, or more specific types of rehab or dementia and that kind of stuff may be more specifically long-term. But if not, they should have some sort of upwards trend. So if my goal is to get back to playing tennis or, go on a trip without my knees hurting me or whatever it is, there should be a specific upward trend. That may be a specific event or something along those lines. You could also tether in those milestones. So this is overall what I call the patient success journey. Part of the journey starts from when they first hear you to when they use your service, get discharged or refer and that kind of stuff. It's ultimately the path which your business is built on. and how patients flow through their treatments and into your business. And if you don't have this mapped out, you're missing a key component, because ultimately that's why your business exists, to solve problems based on the patient journey. So when a patient asks you, how you're going to get them to their desired outcome, maybe they've had back pain or whatever it is, you want to be able to articulate that and be able to show it in kind of like a 2 to sort of 5-step process. Each of those stages needs to be easy to understand, and ultimately you have to tie in the benefits and outcomes for each stage. So this gets overlooked, in the simplest way, to not get into massive detail, but simplest way is to say in an initial consultation, something like, people say, we're going to do a fitness movement analysis, we're going to do functional movement screen, we're going to do a health consultation, all of these words. The reality is people don't know what that even means. Most of the time they just think it's a sales pitch. But if you can say, listen, we're going to be doing a health consultation or functional movement screen, or whatever you want to use for terminology. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to narrow down to maybe 2 to 3 things that I think that is actually ideally what you've got going on. And then with some specific testing, I'm going to be able to really hone in on what we can do to help get you relief today, but also help get you better results as we move through. So that's an easy way to articulate why someone needs to do an assessment, or they need to do a consultation, or whatever it is. Got to be tied in. Otherwise, there's no real outcome specific to them. The tie-in has got to be easy to understand and spoken on their level, not as a medical professional. Don't use terminology that we know. You got to speak it to them like they understand. The next component here is what I refer to as stages. And the key here is having a manageable series of stages, each leading to the patient's desired outcome. When I would do personal training, we called this the prescription of exercise. It used the same sort of concept with the plan of care. The plan of care should be easily leading your patient through the process without overwhelming them, especially if you've got a longer plan of care, or you're doing more intensive, or you're seeing someone maybe 2 or 3 times a week. If you try to put the entire plan in front of someone, it's guaranteed to confuse them, overwhelm them, and you'll end up getting like, oh, I need to think about it, or they're not quite sure about the process or whatever. Instead, what you want to do is break it up into manageable stages or phases of that journey towards their goal. So I give the example of, like, imagine you need to get your car fixed, and the mechanic listed every single step that they were going to do. Most of it wouldn't make sense, nor does it even matter. Ultimately, they're going to say, okay, step number 1 is we need to get this part fixed. And then when this part gets fixed, it's going to make this work, and so on. So we want to be able to do the same thing with our patients. It's way easier to tell the patient, this is the first step. This is how long it's going to take. And this is the outcome specifically associated. This is the second step, and so on. That's something patients can comprehend, they can look forward to, and they know if they're on track, especially for longer types of plans of care, or if you're doing fitness programs or nutrition and that kind of stuff. You ultimately don't want to overwhelm people with a massive story right out of the gate. People want to see the benefits, and they're getting at the start, and kind of understand the process along the way. That's a key factor, especially with this current rapidly changing environment, especially here in Canada, where we've got people who are, we're open one week and then we're closed the next, and this variant's killing everyone, and then it's fine, and all sorts of stuff. People need to have really clear, simplistic understanding of how you're specifically helping them. So that's why having your stages tied in is such an important aspect, and a key factor really to having people understand, and especially if you've tried before and they've maybe struggled or whatever it may be. So again, business is all about your patient success journey, mapping it out, and more importantly, how you communicate with your communication cadence, so that way they understand how you work and how they're going to be able to get the specific outcome. If they're coming in just for a service, a treatment, or a tune-up or whatever, there's nothing associated to that. And a lot of the time, they're going to see that as just an expense, or they're not going to see it as an investment in their health as you might. And ultimately, that's often a failure on the practitioner's part, or your part, to be able to clearly articulate. So if you struggle a bit with your messaging, or you don't have your patient journey dialed in, or you're not quite sure on how to be able to communicate your specific stages, and you want some help getting to the next level and ultimately getting better conversions of people who are the right fit, comment below or send us a message. We'd love to chat with you a little bit more about where you are, and if and how we can best help you kind of craft better messaging so that you can get these ideal people.